Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of the Hall of Fame Show, Season 5, Episode 16. I'm Kirk Buchner, along with Evan Nolan. We run NotHallOfFame.com, along with the United States Athletics Hall of Fame. Look for big news on that in the next little while. We have pretty much a loaded show today, but I think we should sort of start off with the person who left us. And even though it's at the age of 93, it still feels way too soon.
Yeah. Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Say hey, kid. Indisputably the greatest living baseball player after Hank Aaron died. I mean, you can sort of made an argument for Aaron, but once Aaron was gone, there's no question. And he may have been better even when Aaron was alive. Godfather to Barry Bonds, who may honestly be the best living baseball player at this point, although the Hall of Fame won't hear anything of it. But just, I mean, more than a baseball player, Willie Mays was a cultural icon. Like, yes, I mean, he is. If you had to make a list of the 50 most important people in the history of the United States in terms of shaping our culture, Willie Mays is on that list.
And if you were to sort of put together United States Athletic Hall of Fame, he might be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Oh, wait, he was.
He was indeed. And he wasn't a border candidate either.
No.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much you could say about his cultural impact, his baseball impact. Just one of the truly great Americans. There's actually an interesting story. Julian Edelman had Ed O'Neill on today on his podcast.
Okay.
And Ed O'Neill only ever once asked, he said, for one autograph, was for Jim Brown. He didn't get it because Jim Brown was at the end of second practice, and Brown later apologized for it. But he said he met Willie once, and just like it was an awe. Same thing with who was the other one who said they were in awe the first time that Willie Mays? Steve Hofstetter, who's a comedian, wrote one of the original writers called Humor. He used to cover sports, and they're around athletes all the time. Madison Bumgarner went for the Giants, and not a big deal. And then he heard Willie Mays talking, and went back and just like stood in his aura. He said it was like I didn't want to approach him because it's been inappropriate. It was also inappropriate to leave. Just like, I don't know, and just one of the truly great Americans. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, yeah. Also, too, when you talk about like an offensive player or position player, rather, scouts always talk about the five-tool player. They could just rename it the Willie Mays because he was all of that. I had this flashback when it sort of it was announced that he died, which happened as we're recording this yesterday while I was watching, maybe you were too, I don't know, a game 5 of the Stanley Cup. Game 5? Yeah, game 5 of the Stanley Cup. And so that's sort of like when that sort of flashed through and then made official through different mediums. As I started getting into baseball, it was one of the sports I got into pretty quickly. And then I remember on Christmas, I got a book about baseball. And I tried to see if I could find it on Amazon or anything like that. But it was like, it's one of those things you could get back then. So it probably would have been like 82 or 83. And it was the 100 greatest players of all time. And it was Willie Mays, at number 1. I think it was, I can't remember who was 2 or 3, whether it was Ruth or Aaron. In which order? I think Ruth then Aaron is how they put it. But and I still remember sort of like a quote at the back from Willie, like how honored he was to sort of like be number 1 in that. And that's sort of like my first sort of understanding of what made him so special. And then you realize, what couldn't he do? Hit for average, hit for power.
Yeah, career 300 hitter, 660 yards. I said career 301 hitter, 660 RBI, 339 stolen bases. I mean, 24-time All-Star.
Right. Some of the things I saw through the X and I don't know if this was accurate or not, but there was something that well, the clip was accurate. Whether the context was, I don't know, but it was in 2016, and it's Vin Scully meeting Willie Mays for the first time. I thought, well, I don't know
I
if that's
saw
the
that.
first time. Okay, I don't
I
know if
mean,
that's the
that's
first
but
time they
that's
ever met.
I saw that video. It's the first time. I mean that it said it was the first time underneath the video. I didn't watch the video.
I did, and it very well might have been based on Vin gushing over that catch, that
Mm-hmm.
over the head catch that Willie Mays did. And I think I want to say 54. I might have the year wrong. And Scully was sort of like talking about it wasn't so much the catch, but just the throw that happened after. And it might be an interesting sort of maybe it was the first time they ever met. Vin is sort of, or was rather, he would do his job. He didn't necessarily, well, not necessarily, he didn't hang out with the players.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like, I couldn't have been the first time they actually met, but maybe it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then another one sort of that was making the rounds, because was in like a Legends game, him doing like another acrobatic catch at age 51.
Oh, I saw that video too.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I guess we were sort of like seeing the same things sort of going around. Uh, Great ball player, great human, one of those people who you just were in awe of what he could do on the field. And because of his demeanor, I mean, he used to get flack from what I understood because he wasn't like Hank Aaron. He didn't necessarily sort of like champion civil rights, but he didn't have to. Everyone loved him just
Mm-hmm.
because he was Willie Mays. If that makes any sense. Maybe I'm not saying this right, but that's sort of how it felt to me in looking back at his career.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're two white guys talking about that, but still.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he was part of he with Monty Irvin and I can think of the other guy's name. Henderson, I think it's I can think of the other guy's name. We're the first all African American outfield of all
Oh,
time.
okay. I didn't know that.
Hank Thompson, not Henderson. Hank
Okay.
Thompson, Willie Mays, and Monty Irvin were the first all black outfield in Major League history.
Oh,
Also hit the fly ball that Mantle got his foot caught in a drain pipe and blew out his knee as a rookie, which caused him pain for the rest of his career. Like he's just everywhere throughout baseball history. Like he was an all-star. I mean, his last few years with the Mets, which is still one of the weirdest people in the wrong jerseys of all time. But he was an all-star every year from 1950. From 1950, well, I can look at this.
well, I guess when it was a rookie till
Or through 1973.
yeah.
I mean, 12-time Gold Glover, Roberto Clemente Award winner, Rookie of the Year, 2-time NL MVP, World Series champ, 4-time stolen base leader, hit 4 homers in a game once. Giants Wall of Fame numbers retired by both the Giants and Mets. Remember the all-century team on the all-time team. Only got 94.7% of the vote on his first time on the ballot because baseball writers are sometimes a-holes. Yeah, just
Putting that one mildly.
yeah, an absolutely incredible player and a true model that you'd want anyone to be. So,
Yeah, one other final X thing that I saw. It was, and I apologize, I don't know the broadcaster because I don't watch or listen to Giants games. And it was the audio of the Giants announcer learning that this was the case. And he's rattled completely. And he's apologizing. And then if you were just listening to the game, I guess maybe driving home from work or whatever, you probably like, what are you rattled from? And because it took probably another 4 pitches for him to sort of like get that all out, or maybe he was waiting for it to be completely official from Giants media because I think they were the ones who announced that first. That seemed to be the case. I could be mistaken on that, but that looked to be how that was. And so I suggest people just sort of like sourcing that out just for the impact of Willie in San Francisco. And I think obviously our reactions just say it all.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, and neither of us really ever saw him play live. So.
No, I go, well, he was, when did he retire? 74. I was born
73 was
73.
last
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Next.
So, yeah, I mean, there's thankfully a lot of footage.
Yeah.
Where we release, we can sort of like see that, a lot of print, a lot of books, and he was around a long time. And like afterwards, where you got to understand that. And thankfully, it's great when the legends do live a long time after.
Mm-hmm.
So, we lost Hank only a couple years ago, but still, we were blessed with that.
We've lost quite a few in the last little bit here. Jerry West was 86. We lost this one. Walton was only 71. I mean, even within the last year, we've lost Jim Brown.
Yeah.
Hank was a couple years ago. I mean, there aren't that many of the true legends left. We've been having a little debate as to who the greatest living baseball player is. We had someone say Ricky Henderson. I personally think at the moment, just out of respect for his age, if nothing else, I'm putting Sandy Koufax. I think is the greatest living baseball player at this point, at least in terms of talent. But with Willie, there is absolutely no debate. So,
and even regardless of who you would pick, none of them exceed his legend.
No, agreed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, Godspeed, Mr. Mays.
Yep.
Thank you. So from that, let's talk about a celebration, really for you, and for a lot of other people.
Did something happen this week? I was unaware.
Well,
I opened a new bottle of Woodford Reserve for this. Although, if anyone asks, it's apple juice.
Oh, there you go. Well, enjoy that apple teeny, however you may like. So we're gonna go right into the elevator up, although it's really Evan's elevator. It's an Evan.
I get it this week.
The Evan.
Yeah. So I sent you after this. You said who did the biggest thing up and down, and I sent you a list.
A very long list.
It was a long list. I actually have 11 real things on the list, but I do have some honorable mentions I would like to bring up. And
if people haven't picked up what we're talking about, the Boston Celtics have won their 18th championship, making them the winningest. Though I'll say this again, so the people in the back in here, I'm not a Boston guy, but I'm doing this for Evan's benefit. The winningest franchise in basketball history, and I'm a Raptors guy, so I'm not doing this to ride on Evan's dick. I think if you were watching basketball at this season, and by the All-Star break, if you didn't think it was Boston's to lose, I don't know what sport you're watching. There's only one team. Go ahead.
Excuse me. A lot of people thought it wasn't Boston's to lose. 89% of people voted on the Mavericks. So
I don't understand in what capacity how anyone would think that. The only team that I thought could give them a run for it is only because they'd been there was Denver, but they didn't make it.
Yeah, and Denver was the one team I was very nervous about. I've said before that had we at some point had to play, excuse me, if at some point we'd had to play either Minnesota or Oklahoma City, those are the type of teams that give us some problems.
Mm-hmm.
Our games against Minnesota this year, we went to overtime twice with that.
I wouldn't have even worried though.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, playoff basketball is so different, and you've got to fight through these trenches to get there. Basketball is so much more different. I mean, like as we were doing this, and selfishly, for two reasons, I'm glad that the NHL is still going on as we're recording this. Mm-hmm. A, because as a Canadian, obviously I'm cheering for Edmonton. B, because I didn't want this to go 2 hours.
Oh, that's also true. And we can do that next week. Just very quickly, as you mentioned yesterday, Keith Tkachuk made the greatest play in sports history that only mattered for 3 seconds. We'll come back to that later. Anyway, so I have a list of honorable mentions for the elevator up here.
Sure.
I'm going to start with Vegas bookmakers. They had a very good week for the elevator up. The Chaminade Preparatory School in St. Louis, Missouri, particularly Keith Tkachuk's team.
You mean Matthew?
I'm sorry, Matthew Kachuk.
Yeah.
That's where both Matthew Kachuk and Jason Tatum went to
Okay.
school together. There's a picture of them together as kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Matthew Kachuk and Jason Tatum are friends from when
I
they're
didn't
like
know that.
fifth grade. There's lots of pictures of them together.
Okay.
A good picture of them together on the bus.
Mhm.
I will say Anna Horford's Twitter account is an elevator up. Al Horford's younger sister,
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the biggest
Sure, okay.
Celtics defenders there is. She's on fire this week. I
Okay.
will say Deuce Tatum not having a bedtime is elevator up this week. Peyton Pritchard's less than 3 seconds on the clock would be elevator up, but probably the biggest honorable mention elevator up. I do have to say Lakers apologists are having a Hall of Fame week this week. It's been absolutely
Hey,
ridiculous.
it's your time to gloat. Do it.
It's been absolutely ridiculous and kind of sad. So I just want to point that out. I do want to point out the Lakers apologists are like, oh yeah, the Celtics have only won, 4 times in the last, during my lifetime, the Celtics won 5 titles, right? So the ones back in the day don't count because they were playing against plumbers. I'm like, they were playing against the Lakers then too. And does that mean your 5 titles you have in Minneapolis don't count? I'm just wondering because that gets you a little bit further down. But anyway, so people who actually had good elevator ups this time, I have 11 that I'd like to bring up. But one had nothing to do with this series whatsoever. So I'll start with him. I honestly think that somehow in this whole thing, that the Joker is somehow an elevator up for losing the second round, just because everyone is so convinced that the Celtics team would have lost to him. His legend has grown to the point that being on the team that lost to the team that lost to the team that lost the championship, they definitely would have beaten them. I don't get it.
You're listening to different sports media than I am.
Oh my God. I'm on Twitter. It's just hilarious how everything's happening. I'm going out there.
All right.
Number 9 here, number 10, sorry.
Number 10.
Number 10. I'm going to go with Luka in his loss. I mean, he led the entire league in points, assists, and rebounds during the playoffs. He led not just his team, but everybody in the playoffs during that time. And I know that he lost 5 games.
He got them there.
Yeah, he's the reason they're there. The Celtics exposed him in many ways. He's not a defensive player, and he was just hounded to death. He was working so hard, and all 5 fourth quarters, I guess 4 fourth quarters. Game 4 was, an anomaly. But the 4 games that the Celtics won, his fourth quarters were awful because he was exhausted. Because he was working.
He had to be. I mean, it was him, your buddy Kyrie, and not much else.
Yeah, but it wasn't even Kyrie.
Kyrie did very well to get them there.
I mean, that's true. I know, I agree. But during the series, it was Luka and
no, and that's fine. I'm going to talk more about Kyrie if you don't later.
Sure. But I'm not really going to talk about Kyrie. I will say there's the opportunity for he tried to start healing things with Boston, although his interview where he said the Celtics mystique is a cult was probably not the greatest interview. But everything else,
there's so many jumping off points with Kyrie Irving.
I know. He couldn't see beyond the horizon. So anyway, so I'm gonna go number.
Sorry, that was good.
Number 10. I changed my order from when I sent this to you the other day. Mm-hmm. I'm actually gonna go with Kristaps Porzingis at number 10. Okay. Guy who was booed mercilessly when he was drafted by the Knicks. Stephen A. Smith had an incredible rant. Stephen A. Smith had incredible rants about a bunch of people we're going to talk here, all of which ended up being wrong, which is going to be a theme coming up later, by the way.
To be fair, these guys do that to themselves when you're pretty much paid to only do rants.
Yeah, but I'll get to Stephen A. in our good, bad, and ugly. But he's injured all the time, and now he's in the Hall of Fame for coming up with an injury that nobody's ever heard of before. He played game 5, because he wanted to be in that game, but he's going to miss a significant part of the time. But he was one of the most important people on that team, and he went from being a complete afterthought he went from a decent player in New York to an afterthought in Dallas to lost in Washington to the key point that made the Celtics who they were in Boston on a championship team. So he's my number 10 elevator up. I don't think he's getting in, but he's got to be.
Besides saying lost in Washington might be sort of like a great campaign slogan for Biden.
You read too much New York Post, my friend.
I read no New York Post.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not going
to joke for Trump. I don't care. It was still. I just thought lost in Washington needed something. So
I got it.
With it.
I got it. I'm not going politics on this.
Neither am I. But I just. It sounded good.
Let me go with my next one.
Can I have so. I just would look more on Porzingis if I could.
Yeah, please.
I think also too, because I'm a big thing on narrative, right? So now he joins the team. This is his first year in Boston. People weren't, yeah, you're talking about the big two, who you're going to talk about later, and Jalen and Jason. But here's a guy who averaged again 20.1 points per game, another PER well over 23.2. You see the difference when he's playing, even though Boston was still doing well without him. Narrative as a whole is a big deal. And the Basketball Hall of Fame, especially considering we don't know who the hell runs what and who votes on what. Yeah, he might only have been an all-star once, but it didn't stop Cooper, did it? Showtime Cooper.
True, but I think they need more championships for Porzingis.
Porzingis. Absolutely, but he won. Now he's won one.
I will say one other honorable mention I'm going to put in here, which happened a lot, and I saw a lot on this. Marcus Smart, who we traded for Porzingis, had got a lot of love and was mentioned a lot by a lot of Celtics players that he was one of the people who kind of set the Celtics tone here. I kind of hope they send him a ring, although it'd be kind of awkward if they did. But just something up for Marcus Smart because he got a lot of love after this whole thing happened.
Yeah, as a Raptors guy, that gives me DeMar DeRozan vibes. But anyway,
I get it. Yep. So I'm going to go with number 8. I'm actually going to go with the coach, Joe Mazzulla. Mazzulla is the youngest coach to win a championship since Bill Russell in his final season back in 1969. So when Russell was player coach, he's a weird dude.
I don't know much about him, so
he's a very weird dude. He gives some very strange answers on things. If the Celtics sucked, he'd be probably not as tolerated as he was, but he has the highest winning percentage for his first 2 seasons of any coach in NBA history right now. And the people who run the Celtics are very, very bright. When Ime Udoka was forced out, they probably would have gone with Hardy, who's now the coach in Utah, who was their assistant, but they went to Mazzulla. They could have gone anywhere. They went with him. The players seem to love him. He has the opportunity to become the new version of, what's his name in Miami? It just pops right out of my head. Spoelstra. Where Spoelstra, when he won his first run, seemed a little bit overmatched, but had the talent and then became, in many considered to be at this point the second best, maybe third best coach in the league, right?
Is he tenured at this point?
No, Popovich.
Oh, how did I forget that?
Yeah, Popovich. I mean, it's Popovich, Kerr, and Spoelstra. In someone I would consider to be the top 3. I mean, he's only 35. He's 10 years younger than I am, right? So he's got a real opportunity here. One championship does not get you in the Hall of Fame, but the highest winning percentage and first championship's a good start to anyone's career, particularly when you got maybe 30 more years of coaching ahead of you, if that's what you want to do. Number 7, I have everything in a weird order now. I'm going to say Wyc Grousbeck is going to come in at number 7, the owner of the team. The Celtics, the Boston sports teams currently are weird in that they have 2 ownership groups have won championships in the Bruins with Jeremy Jacobs, and the Red Sox have won 4 uh, and with John Henry, but neither of those guys are fans of the team. Does that make sense? And it's very clear at this point that the Red Sox are just another part of John Henry's, portfolio of teams. And that's why, despite winning 4 championships, he's pretty much hated in Boston. The other 2 teams, the Patriots and Celtics, are owned by guys who are fans, made a bunch of money, bought the team, and have been running it very intelligently until recently for Kraft, right? But Grossbeck, this is his second title now as owner. He's been to, let me do the math here, 1, 2, he's been to 7. No, he's been to 4. His teams have been to 4 NBA finals and 1, 2, 3, 10 Eastern Conference championships under his watch, which is pretty good for anybody. He's been a guy who has not been meddling with the team, but is willing to let his people make the moves that they need to make, right? So I would say Grossbeck, if their ownership, as we're getting up there, multiple championships as an owner is going to help him going forward. At number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so I guess the number 6, because again, I have them in weird order. I'm actually going to put Brad Stevens at number 6, okay, with a shout out to Danny Ainge as well, because Ainge is the one who made the trade that really built this thing, getting both Brown and Tatum. It's weird, by the way, both those drafts, the first 4 picks were made by the same 4 teams in both 2016 or 2017, 2018 drafts. It's kind of weird. But the Sixers picked first in both those drafts. The Lakers picked second. The Suns picked 4th. But in back-to-back drafts with the 3rd pick, the Celtics picked Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum under Ainge's watch. Built a very good team into multiple Eastern Conference Finals. And then Stevens realized that his voice was getting stale, and Ainge wanted a new challenge, and he kicked himself upstairs, right? And since then, all he's done is trade. It's essentially that guy who traded the red paperclip for the house in Canada. Eventually, he just kept trading up and up and up and got a house out of it. This is essentially what he's been doing. He's been trading middling players for better players, right? He traded Romeo Langford, Josh Richardson, and a few picks for Derek White. Then he traded Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice, and some other folks to Indiana for Malcolm Brogdon, who won 6th Man of the Year last year. Then he turned around and needed to get Porzingis by a certain time, so he originally had the deal with Brogdon, and that fell through. So he ended up trading Smart to Memphis, and the trade that brought back Porzingis. Then he turned around when the Bucks made a trade they definitely don't regret at all for Dame Lillard and dumped Drew Holiday. He went and got Holiday with Brogdon, right? He has just gradually improved this team. He went, and actually I forgot his first move was to go get Al Horford back, who was basically in exile in Oklahoma City. And he rebuilt this team a little bit at a time around his 2 dominant wings, and has gone from a guy who Stephen A. Smith accused Tatum and Brown of basically what was the word? He basically abandoning their race by not making a stink about Stevens getting kicked upstairs, that they didn't even interview a black candidate, and how dare they, to being what this year the executive of the year and leading his team to the NBA championship. So I think they win another one, and they're very good. I mean, their entire roster is back next year, with the exception maybe Xavier Tillman, who I think they're going to resign because Porzingis is out. So they're going to have Tillman there to back up Horford. But basically everybody else on that whole roster is back. So they have as good a chance to repeat next year as any team's ever going.
And now they've done it. Just before you go to the next one, I mean, like, that's why it just seems so obvious to me anyway. This depth is a big deal. I think if you go 1-to-1, as great as Tatum is, I have Doncic over Tatum.
I'm not going to disagree.
2 through 11, it's Boston.
I mean, I think Kyrie's got to be better than Kyrie's
Jalen
got to
Brown?
be on there anyway. No, he's not better than Jalen Brown.
No, so then
I
like so depth, right?
oh yeah. Oh, I'm saying you're saying overall 2 through 11. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and you know, especially once you get past 2.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't turn Derek Lively down if he remained available to my team.
I'm not. It's not a shot at Derek Lively.
Right.
It's just a.
But I'd rather have.
Reality.
I mean, he's their third best player. I would rather have definitely Holiday, Porzingis, and White over him. Horford is perfect for our team, but if I had to give up Horford for Lively, I'd probably find a way to do that.
Is that a segue to Horford? Because I know you're going to be talking about him.
I'm not there yet. No.
Oh, okay.
Next
My
up,
bad.
actually, at number 5 is Derek White,
Okay.
who has gone from being a project who couldn't shoot to a dead-eye shooter who is, I mean, is he the best blocking guard you've ever seen in your entire life?
Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that.
I mean, Gary Payton was better at stealing the ball, but like just in terms of, I mean, he blocked Derek Lively a one-on-one. Derek Lively has 8 inches on him, and he just stuffed him at the rim. Just basically the 6th man that every team wants is even though he starts now, but absolute stud, and legitimately beloved enough in Boston. If they win another title at some point, and he's still on the team, there's a chance. I sent this to you. There's a chance that number 9 gets retired. Like that's how beloved he is in the city of Boston with Derek White.
Okay.
And number 9 was Ray John Rondo back in the day. So just to give you an idea. But yeah, White, I think, comes in at number 5. Number 4 is Drew Holiday. Holiday got his 2nd championship. He was miscast in Milwaukee, where with Middleton out, he had to be the 2nd banana. And that's not what he's good at, right? Where he in Boston is the 4th banana, maybe 5th on any given night, and he can just play defense and pass the ball and take open shots when they come his way. He's fantastic. And his leadership and the fact he's probably, I mean, he's the most interesting player on the U.S. national team to me coming up for the Paris Olympics.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong too. So like he's already won a world championship.
He has won a world championship, but not
did he? I'm trying to think. Did he win the world the same year that he won the NBA title? Because I think
let me double check.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, like another interesting thing was while I was sort of looking him up, he's now on a 4-year streak of top 10 defensive player of the year finishes. Which I think should bode well up. If you're a good system guy and you've done that in 2 different systems, you know, I think in some ways, well, not in some way. I have a bigger. You're probably thinking the same one I am in terms of an actual elevator up, but I think he's actually, for me, number 2.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is only because when you get to Tatum, I think in some ways he's already there. I've got a Grant Hill line. If you were really, really good for a long time, before you sort of like have like a devastating injury, obviously I'm not saying these guys do because they don't, but I look at Luka, I look at Tatum. You're a top 10 player, and now you've won something. Luka didn't, but if you're a top 10 player and then all of a sudden you have to compile for another chunk of your career, if that sort of happens, are you that Hall of Famer at this point? I think Tatum's that guy now. I think Luka's that guy now already, but I jumped on your cloud.
Yeah, I mean, so going back, Drew Holiday actually doesn't have a world championship. He has a gold medal. So he has a gold medal in the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. The 2020. And then they won the championship in
one. Okay, so
and then there was before Milwaukee won. They won in 2021 technically.
Okay, but it's the same calendar year.
Same calendar year, correct?
Okay.
But I mean, he's on the team again. They have another legitimate chance to win. He's got 2 championships and 2 gold medals. I mean, that's very much with the way they do things, putting him in the territory. He's only a 2-time All-Star at the moment, but he's 6-time either
Mhm.
first or second defensive team. Um, so we shall see. But Drew, I think, is what has got to be number 4 on this list.
Okay.
Three for me is actually Tatum.
Love it.
Because I think Tatum's already number 9 on the Celtics scoring list in his career. He has a decent season this year. I don't have this in front of me. I'm pretty sure he moves up to number 6 in the Celtics scoring list all time. If you're in that part of the Celtics scoring list, you're pretty much already getting there. He's been a multiple time first time NBA, our first team all NBA.
Mhm.
He's already got enough of the accolades that this is kind of the final thing he needed.
So then you're thinking the same way I am then.
Yeah, that he
Okay,
was
yeah.
probably already, if his career continued on the trajectory it is, he's probably already going to be in anyway. This just helps him quite a bit in getting there. So I have him at number 3. Number 2 is Al Horford.
Hmm.
Because this championship, and again, he's a 5-time All-Star.
Hmm.
He was a member of that 60 wins Hawks team. He's a member of,
Yeah.
I mean, again, that number 1 seed Hawks team. He was one of the best player on that team, or one of the best players on that team. He's been to multiple NBA finals with the Celtics. The fact he was the oldest player ever to win, or sorry, not the oldest player, the player with the most playoff games to finally win his first championship.
Mhm.
That is something
Great
that
story.
people are going to remember. He's going to play again next year. He'll be back because, I mean, why not? Why not try and bring this back? But
And it's not also too. It's a great story for his age. Sorry, I interrupted you again. It's yeah, he wins his first title, but he's still a very solid contributor on that. He's
very
now
much
easing into, coming off the bench. That might sort of change a bit, depending on his role and how much they need him. But it's a great story. But we're not talking about Juwan Howard when he won a title with Miami,
or
and
Adonis Haslam, who was on the end of the Miami bench for
wow, yeah. But Juwan
5
Howard,
seasons.
I joke with my Dave, if you're watching, man, because him and I would just sort of like say like, why is Juwan Howard is there? Is he just there to tell the same story? I remember when Chris and Jalen and I said we're going to wear baggy shorts. We came up with that. Tell that again, Juwan. I don't know what he did on that damn team.
Yeah, I mean, Horford's the 6th man on the Celtics team. He's in the Walton role at this point on the Celtics team,
And in better health.
and in better health certainly than Walton was at this point. First Dominican player ever to win an NBA title.
I always forget that's where he's from.
And honestly, I think there's a legitimate shot now. He's pretty far down the Celtics scoring list. He's actually got fewer than 5,000 points in his Celtics career, believe it or not. But there's a legitimate chance that he ends up getting the number 42 retire.
Really? Okay.
I do think so. He's the first real free agent we ever signed in Boston, and he was a culture setter and absolutely beloved. When he left for Philly, everybody was like, what the hell? And he, in retrospect, said the worst thing he ever did in his life was leave for Philly. They just completely miscast, couldn't wait to come back to Boston. He is a beloved figure. Championship now, 5-time All-Star. And again, Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. What you do in college matters. And he was on back-to-back NCAA champions and a dominant part of those back-to-back champions. I think that people are like, he only has 5 All-Stars. That doesn't matter. I mean, again, Michael Cooper just got in.
Manu Ginobili.
There you go. So
I love, I think, speaking for you, I'm sure you love Manu too.
I do too. I would take him all the time.
Yeah.
But just based on their criteria, he's well above where they are. I mean, with the people they're considering now who are getting close to getting in, they are cutting, I don't know, to the 9, 10% of the league. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're not talking the top 1 or 2. We're getting further and further down. he's well above any of the people they're considering generally at this point.
Mhm.
So I think he's a number 2 overall.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I just again segueing, because I just want to not forget this. I'm almost done revising the basketball list.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I'm sort of like doing that in chunks of 10. I have no new. There's a lot of There's a lot of new entrants, but none of them who are just eligible for the first time. I've been sort of like going in the way back and just people I might have missed.
Yeah.
This is the biggest wide open year for somebody to
Yeah.
sneak in that never had a shot. But anyway,
And I'm not surprised. Well, we'll have an interesting classes here. We always do. But this
yes.
year should be very, very interesting.
And your number one is the most obvious. I mean,
It's Jaylen Brown. I
uh-huh.
mean, he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He won Finals MVP.
Mm-hmm.
He was the number 16 player in the league for the all NBA teams. He's the only other player who was close. Honestly, if Halliburton wasn't a contract year where he could have gotten the max, he probably takes Halliburton's spot. Because Halliburton was fantastic, and then he got injured, and he wasn't the same player. He also deserved it. We went over this a couple weeks ago. He also deserved it over Booker, and he deserved it over Sabonis at the Kings. But
a step further, if I could, I think he's been snubbed for also other All-Stars he could have had. He could, he's a 3-time All-Star. He could easily be a 5-time All-Star at this point.
Oh, there's no question. But here's the thing. That all changes now.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best player on a dominant team, best player in the playoffs on a dominant team that went 16-3 in the NBA playoffs. I don't care who you're playing. 16-3 is not something that just anybody does, right? He was the best player on that team throughout the playoffs, not just offensively. I know that Tatum led in basically every offensive category: assists, rebounds, points, everything like that. Brown was not only averaging 20 points a game, he was guarding the other team's best player at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're going to be in a situation for the next 5, 6, 7 years where he doesn't make, unless he's injured, where he doesn't make an all-NBA team going forward. I think this completely changed the way people think about Jaylen Brown, and they're going to pay much more attention to him. And he's now entrenched in the top 15 conversation in the NBA. Came out, the NBA, or someone just came out with the rankings today of the top players in the NBA. They had Tatum 7 and Brown 8, which is where Brown belongs. I think a little low for Tatum, but whatever, you can say whatever you want about whatever. But I mean, I'd probably have Tatum 5. You can quibble over.
All right. So else. Apologies. I'm putting on the reading glasses here as I'm bringing up something here.
Oh, we have a celebrity guest, Charles Nelson Riley. Good. Thank you for coming today. That was good. That was a good impression, man.
So, were you saying my other ones are crap?
Saying they're not as good as your Charles Nelson Riley.
Nice. I'm looking at every NBA final MVP. There's only one person here who won't get in, and that's Andre Iguodala. So this is almost like you're a ticket. It's a golden ticket.
And I'm not sure Iguodala doesn't get in at some point the way things are going.
He has a better chance than he thinks because when he was asked. So are you a Hall of Famer? No.
Yeah, but he's got a Finals MVP in what, 3? Or is it 3 rings or 4? 4, right?
I want to say 4.
Yeah. So a 4-time guy who's a Finals MVP and has made an All-Star game. I mean, at this point, that's what we're looking at for stuff. So I think he has a better chance to get in. And I also think Derrick Rose has a better chance to get in than we think at this point. So
because on sort of what you're laying out, yeah, I would agree with that. No one, but yeah, I think by far I would argue that Jaylen Brown's taken a bigger step to the Hall than all 10 of the people you just mentioned combined.
I'd agree, except maybe for Stevens.
Okay.
Because I think Stevens has gone from very good coach to he may be the best GM in the league.
But here's an interesting thing too that when we talk about coaches and whatnot, and I know Stevens wasn't a coach this year. Vinny recorded a couple shows with me where he makes a Hall of Fame case for, and it was like another one of those scenarios where, what do you mean he's not already in? and he did the Hall of Fame case for JoJo White as a coach,
Hmm.
and he's not in, and he's like one of the top 15 coaches when they did that list with the 75. Uh, and then it's one of those people I would have thought was already in at this point. It's a
Hmm.
weird thing when they how they
One of the
contribute.
nicest men I've ever met, Jojo White, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know you met him.
I met him at a Celtics game.
Okay.
Talked to him about whether or not he'd ever played ping pong with Bob Cousy, who got his 18th championship that he was so excited about. Suck it, JJ Redick. But, my dad and Cousy were next door neighbors in college. They shared next door neighbors in dorm room. And so he and Cousy used to play ping pong all the time. He said, my dad was a hell of a ping pong player. Say Cousy was a hell of a ping pong player. According to my dad, at least, I don't never know. Two of them split. My dad won freshman and junior year ping pong title, and Cousy won sophomore and senior. So I went and talked to JoJo about whether or not he'd ever played Cousy in ping pong. He was flattered. I think he was surprised by the question. That's not something someone's ever asked him. He goes, never I play. He goes, I never played Cousy ping pong. If I did, I'd kick his ass. But yeah, absolute gentleman, JoJo White. One of the great pictures I have framed of me and JoJo at the Celtics game. So
nice.
But yeah, absolutely deserves to be in there. So anyway, yeah, I think Jaylen Brown, without a doubt, this was had the biggest leap towards the Hall, mainly because I think this Jaylen, by the way, is number 11 on the Celtics all-time scoring list, right? So hold on, let me.
Who's ahead of him at 10?
He just got passed this year, so hold on.
Okay.
Celtics score points leaders. I have a spreadsheet for that. Give me a second. So I'm sorry, Tatum's 13 and Brown is 15. Okay. So the last person Tatum passed was Antoine Walker, which is important because everyone else above Antoine Walker is in the Hall of Fame and has their number retired by the Celtics. Mm-hmm. So it goes the top 20 in Celtics history: Reggie Lewis, number retired; Cedric Maxwell, number retired; Frank Ramsey, Sash Sanders, number retired; Don Nelson, number retired; Jaylen Brown's 15, Antoine's 14, Tatum is 13. Here are the 12 ahead of him. And Tatum with a normal season will pass the first 4 of these names: Tommy Heinsohn, Bill Sharman, JoJo White, Dave Cowens. He's going to pass all 4 of those if he just has a normal season this year. Number 8 is Bill Russell, 7 Sam Jones, 6 Cousy, 5 McHale, 4 Parrish, 3 Bird, 2 Pierce, 1 Havlicek. So Tatum is 14,600 behind Havlicek. He's only got 11,000. So it's quite a ways to get there. But just the normal, Tatum's got 11,852. Brown's got 10,048. Both those guys are around for a while. At the end of this next contract, Jaylen's probably going to be 8th, probably ahead of Russell, if not 7th ahead of Jones. And Tatum's going to be, probably right behind. He's going to be McHale, Parrish, close to Bird range at that point. So both these guys, I think, can go to the Hall, and both of them getting numbers retired. But overall, Jaylen took the biggest jump.
All right, so who's closing in on Antoine Walker for the Celtic, who pissed away more money quicker?
That's impossible. It's
okay. All right, so I just want to make sure that he's still number 1 in something.
Yes. Al Horford, by the way, is number 36 on the all-time list, ahead of Tiny Archibald, but behind Rick Fox. Rick Fox is number 35. So. And then Kevin Gamble, whose number's retired, but it's retired because it was Paul Pierce's number.
Rick Fox, proof that pretty privilege is real.
Still alive. Originally rumored to have died in on the helicopter crash that killed Kobe. That was one of the first reports that Rick Fox said. Well,
I missed that. I didn't see that.
I had to say, I'm very alive. Thank you. So.
And if it sounds like I'm jealous of Rick Fox, it's because I'm jealous of Rick Fox.
He's a handsome man.
I think I kind of established that in my own little way.
All right,
I'm
I've talked enough about the Celtics for the night, but yeah, let's go
well,
for
no,
number
I
19.
mean, we didn't because they earned it, and this is historic.
Now,
And
and let's go for number 19 now. We can get a 7 championship lead on the Los Angeles Lakers because of course
I no dog in this fight.
those first
So
five first 5 championships are Minneapolis. So
all I ask is to be entertained. Admittedly, this was not the most entertaining series for a non-Celtic or
no,
non-Mavs fan. Uh, saying
but
that, hmm,
again, the Celtics were 14 games better than the Knicks in the Eastern Conference. They were 7 games better than the Thunder in the Western Conference. People are like, well, the Eastern Conference is easier. The Celtics went 23-7 in the regular season against the Western Conference. That's a higher winning percentage against the West than they had against the East. Like, and two of those losses were to Denver. One was in overtime to Minnesota, and they just didn't try in a game against the Lakers where both LeBron and AD were out. They just basically like, well, LeBron and AD are out. We don't really have to do anything today.
hmm,
And the Lakers ended up beating them with like their not even their C squad. But like they dominated everybody. They led the league in NBA history. This team had more 50-point wins, more 40-point wins, more 30-point wins, and more 25-point wins than any team in NBA history. They played 101 games. They had at least a 20-point lead in 50 of them. In half their games, they had at least a 20-point lead. This was a historically good team that, as someone who followed them, was capable of letting any league go away the entire time. But the idea that the 5 seed in Dallas, and who I said coming into this, we can go back and watch tape, is a terrible matchup. The Celtics are a terrible matchup for Dallas.
you said that multiple times.
Like we've now throwing out game 4, in which who knows what happened in that game. Scott Foster was involved in that game. The Celtics is like, forget this. We'll sweep him back in Boston. But in the last 9 games, the Celtics have won 8, and the average in those games is still like 16 points. Like they're just a terrible matchup for Dallas. There's no way they're going to lose the series. I had them in 5 the whole way through. Why didn't I have them in 4? Because teams generally don't sweep on the road. They usually just, the other team gets 1 somewhere. But they had them in 5 the whole way, and they got them in 5. You know who else had them in 5? Vegas had them in 5. It was the best odds.
Mm-hmm.
And they did what they were supposed to do, and now everybody's coming out freaking Embiid. Well, they didn't beat anyone because I was injured. Embiid, you're always injured. And the Celtics own the Sixers. I love every time the Celtics play the Sixers. It's like when the Bruins play the Maple Leafs. We're guaranteed a trip to the next round whenever we play them. So,
Which always makes me happy. Again, it's not because I'm a Bruins fan. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I actually said it today on a boat. I will cheer for the Taliban against the Toronto Maple Leafs with
I
Al
don't know how
Qaeda
good
in
I'm
net.
not sure how good their goalie is there, but
Uh, well, I was going to do a 72 Virgins joke. No,
that's probably, let's stay away from that one. But yeah, it's I mean, hey, at least though four Sixers won the championship, and Jaden Springer, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, and there was a 4th one. Who am I forgetting?
Ben Simmons.
Yeah, right. God, Ben Simmons. Anyway, yeah. So at least 3 of them. Maybe there isn't a 4th, and I just had it wrong in my head. But yeah, those guys all won. So
Well, I'm going to throw another elevator up at you
please.
because we talked about narratives, and I'm a big on that. I use that. That might be my most overused word in this podcast, in this whole series that we do. And I'm going back with Kyrie. Kyrie's been a 2-time elevator down for dumb things he's sort of done in the last few years that aren't as big a deal anymore in a weird way. Now, Kyrie helped bring Dallas, a team that I don't think a lot of people pegged to get to the Western Conference Final.
No.
Take Kyrie out of there, that's not happening. But let's look at that whole thing from a few years ago. But when he, and not Aaron Rodgers, was the most notorious anti-vaxxer in sports.
To be fair, Aaron Rodgers never missed the game because of his anti-vax stance. Kyrie missed a whole bunch.
Yes, he did. But I just think here I am. I moved to the United States 2 months ago, 3 months ago, almost to the day that I moved back to Canada from Barbados, where I had to have every kind of paperwork imaginable to get back home for the vax card and whatnot. This is not a pro-vax, it's not an anti-vaxxing. This is just a commentary overall.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I moved to the United States, I don't even know where my vax card is anymore. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to Aaron Rodgers, maybe Kyrie should send him a Christmas card, but I don't know if Kyrie gives a shit one way or the other. Aaron is now the most pronounced sports anti-vaxxer, mainly because he picked a feud with a very popular left-wing celebrity in Jimmy Kimmel. Well, two people, if I got invited to their houses, and Rodgers and Kimmel, I'd say, I can't make it. Hey, Evan, what are you doing? No, I don't like either. So, Evan, you can take my spot. I don't want to go.
I'd go just for the comedy sake of either of those. So,
No, I'd go if they were together.
oh, that's probably true.
Yeah, but to just hang out with either of them, nah, I'm good.
Fair enough.
But that's neither. Maybe that sort of like aligns perfectly with my centrist view.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing that he was hated for, nobody gives a shit about anymore. And did he cost the Nets a championship? Well, he's the one who actually went back to a championship. KD's getting all the blame for being a lousy leader because he was the best of that three. So those narratives surrounding that of the Nets implosion, a lot of that stink has left Kyrie, despite the fact that I still maintain he'd be a perfect Marvel super villain. I still maintain that. He could be one. Oh, Aaron would be another one. That'd be great.
Yeah, but I mean, and he also beat Harden in the playoffs. Another one of those guys on that Nets team. So
yeah, I mean, KD will still put up points after points after points, but everywhere he goes, he doesn't make one person better. Never.
That's true.
True. Kyrie did blend well with Luka, which I didn't see coming. I'll admit.
No,
I really didn't.
No, we'll see. I'm going to say this: the Celtics, I think, have a much better chance getting back to the finals than Dallas does.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's more who's challenging the Celtics in the East than the fact that the Mavericks are worse or something. But I mean, Oklahoma City is going to learn from this. Minnesota's going to learn from this. San Antonio's on the rise. I mean, Denver's, you got to imagine, going to be back. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of better teams out there in the East. I mean, Giannis, if he's back, we'll see what.
And we don't know where LeBron's going to be.
Well, it's also true. I'm on the Lakers are non-entity at this point, though, to me.
Right, but I mean, like, I don't think
not in league history for people aggregating. If we ever got aggregated, in terms of the next 3 years,
yeah,
who cares?
Yeah. So I'm just sort of like saying that I think Kyrie's narrative, although he'll say something that's going to screw that up again later, I'm sure, because Kyrie, and I'll give him props. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't agree with a lot of things he does, but I love his balls, not literally. Just the fact that he will say what he wants, he says what he believes, he will cost himself money, and he doesn't give a shit. And there's something kind of noble about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, my hatred for Kyrie is long gone at this point. Celtics have now won. How many in a row is this? We've now run 14 out of 15 games of the last 15 games he's played against us.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of calmed down and grown up a little bit, and I think he's coming around to where he actually is finding peace. So I'd have nothing bad to say about Kyrie.
Well, winning a title also changes a lot of things. Ask me that about Vince Carter.
Yeah, true. Hey, remember when T-Mac had talked about how excited he was to get to the next round of the playoffs when they're up 3-1 and then they blew it?
There you go. A couple more things before we sort of look at some of the other people we lost. The Atlanta Falcons are adding 2 new names to their Ring of Honor, Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank, in separate ceremonies. I don't know. I think Matt Ryan obviously deserves it. Greatest quarterback in franchise history by far. No disrespect to Mike Vick, who might be the most popular one, but Matt Ryan's the most accomplished. Stat wise, I don't know if he's ever going to get in the Hall of Fame. Probably not, because the
If
quarterback threshold is just getting harder and harder, and you got to win.
if Eli gets in,
Eli's a different animal.
that's ridiculous.
I,
By the way,
that's a conversation that could go 3 hours another time. But
what do Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank have in common? They're both celebrating on the field when the Falcons are up 28-3. So that's when Arthur Blank came down when they were up 28-3. He went on the field for the owner's box.
I forgot all about that.
So
I do remember sort of like everyone sort of like had them dead on arrival at that point, and I don't see why a lot of people wouldn't. I mean, I know that when I was watching that, I had 80s flashbacks of all those shitty Super Bowls I watched.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got it. And then then the Falcons never ran the clock. They kept snapping with 17 seconds and giving us as much time as possible. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be a guest when Paul and I get to that one.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Because we have Paul Lawrence and I, we've set our recording schedule for a bunch to do over the summer. That's where we look at classic football games. Question for you. I mean, I think Arthur Blank is proven to be a decent owner, liked in the city from everything I've read. Who decides though that he gets into that? Him or? I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
I don't know how he necessarily.
Arthur Blank would completely vote Arthur Blank into the.
I guess, but like in terms of owners,
he's that type of guy.
You don't hear bad shit about him.
I'm not gonna say anything personally about my feelings on Arthur Blank.
Okay. No, okay. If there's something maybe I don't know.
I'm not going on record saying it. I'll tell you off air. But yeah, he's not my favorite person.
All right, fair enough. I mean, like, I don't necessarily pay much attention to what he does. I assume that there's not going to be sort of like a Hulu series like with Sterling.
No, not that kind of situation.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But either way, congratulations to both. Obviously, I think more congrats to Matt Ryan, but yeah. So there's that.
And at least the Falcons are getting that out of the way early to help him get in the Hall, as opposed to all the stuff the Bengals didn't do for their players all over the years. So
yeah, there's that. Another interesting thing I want to mention, though, also too, which we'll keep an eye on. We don't talk a lot about the College Football Hall of Fame, and rightfully so, because we're not overly big fans of how they sort of do that. But
I also am not the biggest fan of college football, so.
Well, there's that too. But still, we'll talk about it when there's something relevant. So Les Miles, former head coach of LSU, is suing LSU. Also the governing body of the College Football Hall of Fame, because he had 37 wins vacated, putting him under the threshold. Because for a college football coach, you have to have, I don't quite know why they state this. That's sort of interesting, but you have to have
600 winning percent.
You have to have that. Those vacated wins puts him at 597. So it'll be sort of an interesting thing to watch, and also,
particularly because it wasn't done by the NCAA. It was done by LSU specifically because one player got impermissible stuff. So any game he played in, they got rid of. And at this point, we're past the point where any of that stuff matters anymore.
Well, yeah, also too, I mean, if Reggie Bush got his Heisman back and the person sort of was part of because I read what it was, basically somebody got, the father of one player, I don't know what player because it wasn't revealed, got benefits of $180,000 or stuff, which is obviously bullshit. But whether that's tied to Les at all, we don't know. And part of his lawsuit says like his name is being besmirched, blah blah blah. And I don't know whether he had anything to do with it or not. So I do find it goes back to that flippant hypocrisy, and we're going to see, as much as I think you and I are both sort of happy that college athletes can make money off their name, the scandals that are going to come moving forward are not going to be less.
No, I mean, but at the same time, stuff like Marcus Camby getting a necklace vacating UMass's 1995 Final Four also needs to be rectified. You know what I mean? Just stuff that doesn't matter at all anymore. because the rules used to be different. It's like people who are in jail right now for marijuana possession. Just commute their sentences and let them out. Like things have changed. So
Chris, yeah, put those Final Four banners back.
absolutely.
Whoever waited years, I'm convinced of that. Way too many years
Yeah,
for the
agreed.
Basketball Hall of Fame, but that's neither here nor there. I turn it back. This is the Evan show today because we've
Yeah.
got
Well,
the remaining people we lost, and you're good, bad, and ugly,
yeah, that's a very short list this week,
which
fortunately.
is good.
Yeah. Nothing from the Beige Mistress. Other than and then Willie, I only have 6 names,
Mm.
honestly. You know how sometimes I go a little bit crazy on stuff. First one, Enrique Pinder,
Mhm.
uh, former professional boxer from 66 to 73, who held the undisputed WBA, WBC, and ring bantamweight titles.
Mhm.
He passed away at the age of 76. Um, from the world of track and field, American long distance runner Bob Schul passed away at the age of 86. Won the only American ever to win an Olympic gold medal in the 5,000 meters. So that is not long distance running is not the American sport generally in these things, but he's the only one who ever won the 5,000 meters. He won the gold medal in the 64 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. He passed away at the age of 86. From the world of music, James Chance, who is a member of the punk and the no wave music scene, not even new wave, but the no wave music scene in New York in the
Okay.
late 70s, member of James Chance, the Contortions, probably the best known band, but also Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, which is a great name for a band. Excuse me. He passed away at the age of 71. Also passing away, Angela Bofill, passed away at the age of 70. Best known for her single "This Time I'll Be Sweeter," which hit number is 1975. I'm sorry, it hit number where was this? 21 on the R&B charts back in 1978. Sorry, but she passed away at the age of 70. And also Buzz Cason from music passed away. Remember the Casuals, which is often credited as being Nashville's first rock and roll band. Best known for his creation of oh come on, I had it here and it just completely disappeared on me. Everlasting Love. Yeah, song Everlasting Love. He's the one who wrote it. Also backing singer for Elvis Presley and Kenny Rogers. Also played with Leon Russell, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame sideman, on the Crickets version. So he toured with the Crickets for a while. Also recorded with Dolly Parton, Jerry Reed, Merle Haggard, the Doobie Brothers, Emmylou Harris, Olivia Newton-John, and all sorts of other folks. But he passed away at the age of 84. And the final person to talk about, former utility player for the Cubs, Tigers, Mariners, Red Sox, Astros, A's, and Athletics. I guess you could say he played one season for each of those teams, except for he was in Boston for 2. Mike Brumley passed away at the age of 61 in a car crash
Mm.
earlier this week. So near Jackson, Mississippi. So that's everybody I had who passed this week.
No, when you just mentioned Kenny Rogers, I was thinking about that song Lucille. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. 4 hungry children and crops in the field. That was a perfect time for her to leave.
Speaking of Lucille, sorry, going back, that's something we forgot to talk about.
Lucille
Uh,
Ball.
no. The Mascot Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Mascot Hall of Fame has 4 new members,
Okay.
including the mascot of the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose name is Jackson DeVille, Jaxson, very 2000s way of spelling that.
Mm,
Orbit of the Houston Astros,
okay.
that green thing with little alien stuff coming out of his ears. Monty, the bear from the University of Montana. and Lou Seal, the Seal mascot for the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah,
So the 4 of them were inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame as announced earlier this week.
that was almost 2 segues. It's like we planned it.
I know, it's weird. I would like to point out that for our committee this year, we picked up a member of the Mascot Hall of Fame as one of our members of our voting body now. So Bromley Lowe, who played the Baltimore Oriole when the Baltimore Oriole was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame, he was the guy in the suit. He is on our committee this year, which was pretty cool.
Look, when they accept that, does he go in under the suit? Do they talk, or they just sort of like?
No, he was just there with, I think it was him, the Philly Fanatic, the San Diego Chicken, and
Okay.
somebody else, maybe Youppi.
Yeah, Youppi is my favorite mascot that I don't know what it is.
As opposed to what's his name for the Flyers?
Gritty?
Yeah, Gritty.
Yeah, like Youppi was from my childhood.
That's
So
true.
so like just as a little kid, like, it's Youppi. You're like what's Youppi? I don't know.
Fair enough. So anyway, that is that's the list. So you don't have a rant this week?
Nope. I could do another Caitlin Clark thing. I don't want to.
Fair enough. Let's leave it.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's just I'll say it one more time. The biggest enemy of the WNBA is the WNBA, and it's sad to watch.
Also true. But anyway, all right. So we're gonna go to our bad, ugly, and good.
Oh, okay, in that order. All right.
In that order. So I'm gonna start with the bad. So this week started the Euro 2024 tournament. Some of the games have been absolutely fantastic so far. Not that we know, because Fox is a terrible network to broadcast soccer. They've put multiple games, including the game of the tournament so far. At least it coming in today. I haven't seen anything on today's. I didn't have a chance. But the Turkey against Georgia, which is probably a game they didn't think it was going to get much, was an absolutely incredible soccer game. If you could see it on Fubo TV,
Which I do not.
Yeah, I mean, whenever it cuts the cord, remember we're going to see how much it was going to be with all these things. Oh, it's going to save us so much, all this other stuff. Fubo TV is $79.99 a month. $79.99 a month for the pro version. The elite version is $89.99. The premier version is $99.99. And then the Latino version is $32.99. Oh, and then there are add-ons if you'd like those as well. What are we doing here? Why bid for stuff if you're going to put things places people can't actually see anything? Like Fox has got FX, they've got, FS2, FS1, Fox Sports, other places to put things. FX, if they want to do that, FXX. But just they're in charge of soccer coverage for the next 2 years. So they got the last World Cup, this Euros, and then the Copa America, and the next World Cup. The 4 most important years in the history of American soccer, probably. And they're just going to absolutely and utterly fuck it up. I'm sorry.
Is there like a Fox News X?
Probably. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Ann Coulter could be that.
Well, I think I saw Fox News America the other day. Maybe that's
I don't know.
version. So I have absolutely no idea. But Fox has no business doing soccer. Get it to somebody else who gives a shit. Or everybody learns Spanish or watching Univision. They do a much better job anyway.
Oh,
it's way better in Spanish. If you just speak Spanish, it's just way better. Okay, that's my bad.
Okay.
Ugly. Sports media.
Well, that could be every week.
Stephen A. Smith needs to go away.
Every time he says something, it just sort of goes in one ear out the other, and then I decide whether I want to let it stick because
he had a whole thing the other day that was openly sexist to Molly Karam and I can't remember the other lady's name on that. get
I
off.
missed this. What did he say?
I have to go pull it up directly. But he went challenged on it. They said, they're like, good thing to say on the show. He goes, I can say whatever I want. I am the show.
That is
Like,
true.
yeah, but like we're watching him walk into Celtics games. Yeah, I always said, Stephen A. Smith, it's not a microwave society. Folks put the stuff in the oven. It's like, this isn't about me. Comes the first take, everything's about me. But like he had all these things he said all week. Just, I don't, like he said, getting Luka Doncic's unwillingness to address the flaws of his game. It's the equivalent of asking Andrea Carter not to kiss snakes. It's the equivalent of asking Molly Karim not to eat during commercial breaks. You can ask Molly to do a lot of different things. Ask her to fast and not eat. That's going to be a problem for her. And Molly's like, I'm a grown woman. I'm proud of it. I'm not a little girl. Like,
sorry.
And he just,
all you have to do is come up with the takes.
And but his take, that's my main problem, I think, with Stephen A. Smith. And it's not just Stephen A. It's, I knew the Celtics were going to win as soon as I found out where Nick Wright was. And when Broussard was on his side as well, both of them picked the Mavericks. Oh, by the way, Wright was very, very quiet until the Mavericks won game 4. And then he was doing a little dance about how he was right and the Celtics going to lose. Like, the hot take machine is just another version of the outrage machine. It's just feeding into the absolute worst parts of society. We're to the point where, like, no one's championship counts, right? The Celtics didn't play enough good teams, so therefore there's an asterisk on this title. What the fuck are we talking about? They're the best team all year. They're a historically great team. They went 16-3 on the way through. Like, what are we doing? And it's all because of this hot take machine with morons who just come up with whatever the hell they want to say, and there's no repercussions for anything.
I'll still take him over Skip Bayless.
All right, well, that's damning Stephen A. with faint praise. I mean, I'd take Skip Bayless over. I would take Skip Bayless over Nick Wright.
Well, again, that's the whole problem, though. I mean,
I'd take Nick Wright over Jim Rome.
The whole thing is all just a giant X, sort of exasperated, and that's what they're paid to do, and it's working.
Is it though?
For ratings, yes. In terms, we're talking about him. I've watched a lot of him, but I don't. He's a background noise for me, if that makes any sense.
Well, certainly noise.
No.
I'm tired of the hot takes. I'm tired of it's more about the pundit than it is about the players. I'm tired. And Stephen A.
I'll sign on that.
Stephen A. is the representative of that to me because he's the most famous of them. I mean, Bayless is a moron. Skip Bayless is an idiot, right? But he has a platform. Chris Broussard is worse than an idiot. What Kendrick Perkins, also another idiot, said about Joe Mazzulla, that if you took his brain and put it in a bird, the bird would fly backwards. That's how I feel about Chris Broussard, who's never been right about anything his entire life, and yet is still on my TV. Like, you asked Chris Broussard to spell his name, he'd get that wrong. And yet he's still, Rob Porter is another one. Like, there are all these people who are just idiots who just say bullshit, and it does not matter. And it's a freaking problem. It's just a problem. The hot take way of doing things sucks.
It does. But that's where we are. And it's not going away.
And this is why we can't get anything done. Because everyone needs a hot take. There can be no compromise because the other person has to be an idiot. It has to be wrong.
If I had to come up with 2 hours of material every day.
Maybe they shouldn't have him coming up with 2 hours of material every day. Maybe, I don't know, this is a crazy idea, ESPN. Show the fucking highlights. Somehow, when I was a kid, ESPN survived without these shows. You know the pundit show they had? The pundit show they had was the sports reporters. And that was on a Sunday morning and involved Mike Lupica. Like,
Is he the highest paid guy they have though? Still?
Stephen A.
Yeah.
Gotta be. Although who knows what they offered Mad Dog? I take Stephen A. over Mad Dog any day.
Okay, that I will agree. Uh, well,
It's just that Stephen A. is the
I guess it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers
Stephen A.
you.
is the clown prince of ESPN. Well, I just had to listen to all this bullshit
Yeah, okay.
for 6 weeks
I
about
guess
how
I guess in the what do they say? Like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So maybe that's why I give him more of a pass because I think he gets a lot more right than a lot of the others.
yeah, and I'm also real pissed about his airing of the. I got a text message from some of the NBA saying that Jaylen Brown isn't marketable because he's too. I can't remember exactly what he said. Too opinionated or something along those lines. I'm like, shut the fuck up. If you have an anonymous source who's texting you, don't read the text message on air unless you're willing to bring out your source. And Jaylen Brown said back, like, yeah, I'd like to see the source. He's like, I'm a real journalist. I'm not revealing my sources.
I
Bullshit.
wasn't aware Jaylen Brown was known for being opinionated.
Jaylen Brown is super opinionated. He is one of the most involved within his community
Okay.
of anyone. He's on every social justice cause. He's there. He marches and stuff. Like for
Okay.
equal
I don't
rights
know.
stuff.
Yeah, I guess I just
He's
don't.
huge, he's
Player though.
hugely into all that stuff. He's one of the few athletes who puts his money and his time where his mouth is.
But if
And
anything, that wouldn't hurt anyone in the NBA. There's a lot of outspoken people in social justice. Hell, they have a social justice award.
again, I get it.
Yeah.
But it was like just an unnecessary assassination of character and then hiding behind I'm a journalist. I don't reveal my sources. Then
Yeah,
don't read it on the fucking air.
that's a bad take. It's like in any other league, he might be onto something. Not in that league.
No, it just I don't know. I'm just done with Stephen
No,
A's.
that's fair.
It's not actually Stephen A.
It's
It's the
not.
whole thing that he represents, and he's the tip of the spear, and
Mm.
all the I'm equally as pissed off at the shaft behind him. Put it that way, since he's the tip of the spear, everyone else is the shaft.
All of that just sounds like bad gay porn.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the shaft behind him. Opened by Lost in Washington. I don't know. It just makes me laugh.
The idea of having shaft behind you is terrifying, though. Shut your mouth. Anyway, all right, and the good. Let's end with the good.
Yeah, all right.
Who is the most dominant athlete in the world at their sport right now? And it's not close.
Joey Chestnut.
Not a sport.
Most dominant person in their sport. Well, there's so many people I could think of, but you're going somewhere specific. Is it somebody I know?
You should.
Should? All right, what's the sport?
Swimming.
Oh, Katie Ledecky.
Katie Ledecky.
Also can't get arrested in a mall, but that's neither here nor there.
So Katie Ledecky, we had the time trials for the Olympics today in Indianapolis in the 1500. Katie Ledecky finished the 1500 in 15 minutes, 20.48 seconds and was pissed. I'm sorry, that was the world record. She finished today, excuse me, in 15 minutes, 37.34 seconds, which is the 15th fastest thing of all time. Okay. The 19 fastest 1500s in the history of the world for women are all Katie Ledecky. Second place today was 20 seconds behind her. By the way,
astronomical in swimming.
In the 800 meters, you ready for this?
Sure.
In the 800 meters, the 34 fastest times in history are Katie Ledecky. When she goes to the Olympics, if she wins 2 gold medals, which is almost guaranteed unless she gets a cramp or something, in the 1500 and the 800, she'll be the most decorated female Olympian in the history of the Olympics. She's 27 years old. Dara Torres was still swimming in the Olympics in her 40s.
Yeah.
She could be going to 3 more Olympics if she wants to, easily.
So here's my question to you on this one, because actually I'm glad you brought her up. Because we talked about this in 21. How who has the Olympics this year? Is it NBC again?
I believe so. I'll double check that
Okay.
where you're talking.
And so like they made two people the face of the Olympics, Simone Biles and Megan Rapinoe. That was who they focused on. And Katie Ledecky, who was already a major star at that point, was an afterthought. Do you think at this point, because Simone's back at this
Simone
point,
will still be one of the faces.
well, she should.
Yeah.
She should. I don't think anyone's going to doubt that. And oh, speaking of that, I don't know if you saw this story. Apparently, Larry Nasser has to do favors in prison so that he doesn't get beat up.
Oh.
So I thought that you'd kind of like that story. I don't
And
know if it's true or not, but you kind of hope it is.
ass, gas, or grass. No one gets rides for free.
There you go.
Um,
So,
but so Katie Ledecky and should be
but she's
the other
not.
one. Katie Ledecky should be the flag bearer for the U.S.
But for what, right? But whether she's the flag holding the flag or not, you talk about marketability. Since going back to like Jaylen Brown and whatnot. Here's a woman who, when it's all said and done, could she be could she have a chance to pass Michael Phelps in overall medals? I would think so.
Let's see.
All right. So while you're doing that, again, and I said before, can't get arrested in the mall. People don't know who she is.
That's true.
And a big part of that, actually, I don't know what a big part of this. I don't know why. I mean, she's not the most gregarious personality. She's not a model. I'm not saying that because I'm so good looking, not, but that hasn't stopped them before.
So Ledecky is not going to come anywhere close to Phelps.
No. Okay. All right.
But Phelps is 23 gold medals. The next closest in history is 9. So if Ledecky is 7. So if she gets 2 more, she'll tie for.
I guess for what she does, there's not a lot of relays.
Yeah, there's not a ton of relays for that. So she doesn't get those advantages.
All right, fair enough. But either way, it's still a high profile sport, swimming in the Olympics.
It is.
Let's be blunt. We only really give a crap once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. I don't know why, and I'm just going to assume that's how it's going to be. The NBC machine is not going to profile her much at all. Maybe the best thing that could happen to her is Caitlin Clark not being there.
Also true.
Because it would be the Caitlin Clark show, and she would dwarf everybody.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, whatever. This is somebody whose accomplishments are completely forgotten in her own country and barely promoted even within her own sport. And I don't know why.
Man, I know, but she needs, if she gets 2,
yeah,
she gets 2, she ties 9. The 3 people who have 9 gold medals are Larissa Latyna from gymnastics for the Soviet Union, Paavo Nurmi in athletics from Finland, and Mark Spitz. And Carl Lewis. That's your list of people with 9. Phelps is 23. That's your list of people with 9. That's a pretty good list to be on. The only swimmer ahead of her for women is Jenny Thompson's got 8. Matt Biondi also has 8. So Ray Uri also has 8, by the way. But yeah, Usain Bolt has 8. But yeah, those it's very, very possible she'll get 2 gold medals. It's also possible she get a 3rd, which would put her 2nd all time and #1 woman ever.
Yeah.
And she's routinely winning these races by 20 seconds. Like, one of the great things you ever watch one of the races is see how long you can see the camera on her without seeing any other swimmers on the screen. There was a 4 count today where she had made the turn and was coming back, and it was like 4 seconds before I saw another swimmer coming in that direction. It's crazy.
So it'd be sort of interesting to see. Well, other than Simone, I don't know who else are sort of looking at, because there's no face of the U.S. women's team in soccer either.
Yeah, Diana Taurasi, I'm sure we'll probably get some.
Yeah, it's like, hi, Diana. First question: do you feel bad about taking Caitlin Clark's position on the team?
Yeah.
Someone's going to ask that, guaranteed.
Look at the 2024 women's roster right now
For basketball or soccer?
for soccer. Let's see. Who would be the biggest name? Crystal Dunn, Rose Lavelle. I mean, it's got to be Alex Morgan.
Mm.
Alex Morgan and Rose Lavelle are probably the two biggest names at this point left on this team.
Yeah, wonder who they're thinking to market. I wonder after her, maybe
Hero.
Chicago.
I mean, Lindsey Horan isn't a big enough name. She's got 148 caps. She's the team captain. Rose Lavelle's got 100. Alex Morgan's got 224.
But none of these names really sort of break through in terms of some of the other women's names in the past.
Maybe not. I mean, Morgan is.
It can, maybe in the future. Morgan's the closest, I would say.
Yeah.
I
So I know. How about
I'm
U.S.
thinking about marketing. I don't know, but I am. I just find that stuff fascinating.
Yeah, the women's basketball team. Yeah, I mean, Brittany Griner, for the wrong reasons. Ionescu, Taurasi, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart.
If they're smart, they're going to try to focus a lot on Asia, who's in her peak.
Yeah.
Diana's obviously a great story. They're going to focus on Brittany, who, not, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Top U.S. Olympians to watch at 2024 Olympics.
Okay.
Look here. The first one they have listed is Trinity Rodman for women's soccer. And Biles Ledecky, Katie Grimes, who finished second to her in swimming. Sha'Carri Richardson?
Is this only women to watch?
No.
Oh.
Durant Plum, Scotty Scheffler. Maggie Steffens from women's water polo. Chase Budinger, former U.S. I don't know. So anyway, that's enough of that.
Yeah, that's enough. I guess we can sort of like put a bow in this one.
And I apologize for shushing earlier. I just didn't want to talk politics today. So
I only made the one joke. I wasn't going any further than that.
I know.
I didn't even have a point.
I know. So I'm apologizing on camera. So
no apology needed. I wasn't even offended.
Anyway, all right.
If I was offended, I would have told you right there on camera.
That's true.
Yeah. So with that, check out all the other shows that we do here in the Buchnerverse. And again, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be trying to wrap up voting for the U.S. Hall 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We've been writing some of the bios right now. We're still waiting to see. We're hoping another couple more votes might come in because that might alter who is going to be nominated. We've got a pretty big tie, and I don't know. We'll see what's sort of going to progress in that. Look for that soon. Check out some of the other lists that have been updated. Football's pretty much done. Basketball's pretty much done. I'm expanding those, and next week we'll be talking a lot about hockey with the conclusion of the Stanley Cup, and the Hockey Hall of Fame will be announced on Tuesday.
Yep.
So we'll see who got in. No, probably no Russians will be my guess.
Probably not, but we'll see.
Probably not. I can go politics there if I really wanted to, but I don't. I'll save that for next week. So with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care.
Take care, everybody.